got their spawning over with and are now looking to feed. I'm joining Jerry Hammond again to try and get amongst them.
Right here, this is Brook Lake, day ticket water. It's about 5 acres in size.
It's a cracking little lake, isn't it?
Beautiful lake.
Absolutely delightful.
I really love this little water. It's beautiful. It's a good learning water as well because it's not one of your sort of little holes in the ground. This one you've got lily beds, you've got gullies, gravel bars, snags, everything.
You reckon it's going to be a bit easier than that start on the Syndicate Lake? That was tough, wasn't it?
It was always going to be tough. I mean, the Syndicate Lake is a renowned hard water. Everyone knows it's a difficult water. I've done all I could do. I baited the areas and the fish, they wanted to spawn, and you know what it's like. When they want to spawn, there's nothing anyone can do about it, and if they want to spawn, they're going to spawn. They're not going to bother about eating, and that's just the way it was.
But you've had a few since, though?
Yeah, since the last time you guys were here, I've had 16 takes.
16? That's a season on there for most people.
That's 2 seasons for most of them.
So what's the approach on Brook Lake then, Jerry?
Well, basically I've baited a couple of spots here. There's a nice little area out on the tree line there, a little bit snaggy, nice few little pads, a little bit of sanctuary for the fish. They really like it along there, so hopefully if they've been getting on the feed, which I know they have been, we've been for a bit of a shout. Basically I'm just going to fish snowmans tonight on both areas. I'm going to try it, not putting no more bait out because I have baited it for 2 days, and see what happens. And take it from there, really.
I mean, they've finished spawning on here, I take it?
Yeah, they finally finished spawning. I mean, when we was float fishing earlier on in the first part of this, you could tell there and then that they wasn't really up for a feed. They was more interested in following each other around. They was acting a bit weird, weren't they? They was coming right up to the camera. They was having 30-pound common swimming past the cameraman, and it was great footage and but hard fishing.
Very hard.
And since then, the floater fishing's been great over here. If the sun comes out tomorrow, perhaps we'll be able to have a little go at that again, I think.
So, I mean, in the post-spawning period, you reckon they're well on the munch? Is it a time of year you normally look to put a bit of bait out? Or?
They are hungry now. They've been bubbling on the spots. It's a little bit quiet at the moment. I've a feeling they had a good feed up last night, and then they've laid up today, sort of resting, and hopefully tonight they'll be back out on the prowl again.
Well, let's hope so.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed once again.
Right, do you want to talk us through the rigs you're going to be using?
Yeah,
on there, Jerry?
I'm still on the same rigs. My long hairs with the snowman, exactly the same. Only I've had a few little. I've been thinking a hell of a lot about the. I use the inline leads, and I normally use the lead ejection setup, and I've been having a lot of thought about that lately because a lot of the fish I was hooking over on the Syndicate Lake was scrapping like hell, and. I've not experienced it before, and I've just been sort of having a real good think about it, talking to a few friends and discussing it, and trying to sort of come to some sort of conclusion as to what's actually going on.
And the idea is obviously when you lose your lead, you've got nothing to snag up, the fish comes straight up in the water.
Well, that's what's happening. I was getting a great take, like playing the fish, it's up in the surface, but what it seemed to do was just run forever. And uncontrollably, like I don't know whether it's because they're up above the weed now, they're not burying down deep, they're just going and going and going, and they were really hard to stop, some of them. On that lake we've got quite a bit of blanket weed, which is very heavy, and when they were finding a bit of weed, I was coming unstuck, and the hook was coming out and I was losing them. I've not experienced that before. I don't know what your views are on it, but it was weird.
I must admit, I've never known them really charge off like that. Normally, I've found when they come to the surface,
they come in okay.
They come in okay.
Whether it's just the mood they're in.
I know one of the other things you've been looking at, and it might be something to look at in the setup you're doing now, Jerry, whether you fish slack lines or tight lines.
Yeah.
I know you've been giving this a lot of thought recently.
Yeah, we was over on one of the lakes earlier on in the season, and we was all chatting. Me and Nigel Sharp was having a chat about it.
Because I mean, at the moment, everybody's into slack lines, bobbins right on the deck.
Yeah. I don't know. You know. I think I was fishing some snags on one of the other waters, and I favoured against a slack line. I had a semi-slack line because I thought, well, if it's got a slack line to that degree that the fish can pick the bait up and run you in the snags, then you're defeating the object of having a tight clutch. So I just fished it semi-slack so that everything was laying flat. But as soon as it picked up, I'd be straight into a tight clutch, and the fish can't take any advantage and get in the snags. So that was one way. I was thinking of just maybe fishing semi-slack lines when you're fishing snags. I mean, most people do fish a tight line.
I must admit, I normally fish totally locked up,
totally
the tip bent round, and everything just clamped down solid.
And I think you're right. I think you're dead right. I mean, On the lake, the particular place I was fishing, there was fishing out of the snags all night long, and I was having liner after liner after liner until in the end I tightened the lines up. I just tightened it right up before I can't handle no more liners.
Does it depend on the type of line though? I mean, a fluorocarbon, for example, if you're fishing a slack line, a fluorocarbon should be taking up the contours of the bottom, so the fish shouldn't be bumping into it.
No, sure.
There's so many variables. I think it's different in every different fishing situation.
Every situation is different, isn't it?
It is.
But it's definitely something we should look into a bit more, I think.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago when we were all, 10 years ago, we were all fishing with our rods up in the air and tight lines, all the time.
We used to do it all the time.
And we caught.
Never fished slack lines. We used to fish over Hainault Park years ago with the butts on the floor and the rod tips up like that.
Yeah.
With the back lid underneath the rod tip. The rod tip was pulled over like that, and when you had the drop back, it's a ping up in the air.
That's right.
Or you used to just pull down and rock it off. They were the good old days.
I mean, again, it's the difference between braid and mono. Some people, reckon braid is more visible, but because it's more visible, the fish can see it and avoid it. There are so many different so many parts of the equation.
It's fashion.
It is fashion, and doing something different to what everybody else is doing will always catch you fish. Like you were talking about your snowmen. Nobody fishes snowmen. If everyone's fishing bottom baits, try pop up. If everyone's spotting, just fish a bag. It always works for you if you do something slightly different.
And something else on that is like, if you use a certain bait, people will only use a certain bait. And to be truthful, I've been catching a lot of fish over on the Syndicate Lake on the Nash scope eggs, but because I knew all the boilers were going in, on my last 6 bites, they was all caught on plastic. Yeah. And that's me being truthful. Yeah. It was all caught on plastic because I was trying something different. Everyone else is using the boilie, and I went on, like you get the single, like the grains of maize. They actually pop up the size 10 hook really nice.
Yeah, I know they do.
And you can either pop them up with a little tiny shot, or if I used an 8, actually weighted it so that just a bit of maize was sitting off the bottom. I was baiting with the Scopex boilies, and I know they're eating them, but I was actually putting in with it sweet corn, and I'm sure they was picking the sweet corn out, and I had two bites the other night just on single grains of pop-up maize.
Talking about lines and slack lines there, are you a fan of backleads, Jerry? Or?
No, I don't really use them that often.
Really?
No.
In all waters, or just I never use them in weedy waters, so I think they can be a liability. But
yeah, I've tried them in the past, and I've had fish that have kited great distance before I've really had any sort of proper indication, and I think I can't afford, when I'm fishing some of them waters where a bite's so important.
You need the indication straight away.
I need to know, and I have had. But you get a few bleeps and you think, what's going on there? And your rod's over there. Yeah. You think, I've got one on. You know what I mean? I'm not really a fan of backleads.
Jerry's prepared 2 areas in this half of Brook Lake. One tight to the snags where the fish are hopefully going to move through from the other half of the lake, and the other in more open water. Both have been primed with spod mix, giving a big bed of pellets and particles over which the fish are hopefully going to browse. And with the baits on the spot, Jerry is letting out a bit of slack line, then he's going to clip on his bobbins and settle down for the evening, and hopefully the fish will move over him sometime during the night. Traps prepared, it's just a case of waiting for the fish to move across, and it doesn't take long before Jerry's in. Taking it very easy because of the snags, he clamps down and waits for the fish to come free. A take at dusk is very typical for this time of year and often signals the start of nighttime feeding activity. It's good news that Jerry has had his take before it gets too dark, so he can get his baits back out right on the spots. The fact that a fish has been feeding over the spots also gives Jerry the chance to get some more bait out over the area, and a couple of spods after a take can make sure the areas are refreshed and ready for more fish to move through onto.
Look at these snails. There's about 1 million of them on it. even though he's only little, he's a lovely fish. Alright, spirited little fight off this one. It's only a little one. Early days.
It's not a big one, but at least it's a start.
Not a big fish, but a nice little scaly one. Pretty lively as well, as you can see. There you go, a lively little scaly one. It's the sort of typical strain of these fish that are in here. They're all little stunners like that. I'd like to catch him with his 30 pound. Complete cracker. I think we're getting back now. He's obviously still very lively, so. Put him back. Let's get that rod back out.
As with Jim Shelley, Jerry's attention to detail is absolutely meticulous. After every fish, he'll inspect his hook length, and if everything isn't 100%, he'll retie and replace them to make sure his rig is sitting and fishing entirely effectively. Despite the dusk action and the fact that Jerry was able to get his baits right back out on the spots, it's a quiet night, and it's first light before the indicators sound again and Jerry's in.
Just a little mirror, just unhooked him in the mat, he's alright. I'm going to let him go, get the rod back out there, try and get another better fish for the camera.
The small mirror is the only action at dawn, but at sun-up, Jerry's out and scanning the water for signs of fish. It's another bright, hot and sunny day, and with a pile of mixers out on the water, it's not long before he spots a few taking carp.
was out of the blue. Feel him just going through the pads. It was a good fish that swam up that way just now, and he kind of went straight past me hook bait. Whether it's that one that's come back or a different fish, hopefully we'll find out. He's on the surface out there at the moment. So it really is jungle warfare out here with these pads. You've got to be so careful. I can feel it pinging off of every stem. I've only had size 10 on and 10 pound hook length, so you've got to take it really carefully.
Floater fishing requires small hooks and relatively light hook lengths in order to fool the fish off the top. But the problem with fishing such frail gear in jungle areas such as reeds and pads is that you will get snagged up. The fish Jerry's hooked has ploughed him through one of the densest area of pads on the lake, but thankfully there's a fishery boat available, and pulling on a life jacket, Jerry's able to get afloat. The beauty of a boat is that it allows you to get right over the top of the fish, change the angle of line, change the angle of pull, and allow you to exert leverage in directions that you wouldn't be able to do so from the bank.
Right, we're getting quite nearer now, so... Very tricky amongst these pads. If I get a bit closer, I might be able to move on again.
Even with a boat, it's not all plain sailing. It sometimes takes a bit of hand clearing, a bit of hand lining in order to get the fish on the move again.
Oh, I thought I'd lost him there.
But eventually it's job done, and after a hard fight the fish is in the net.
Alright, we're safely back after that. Okay, I'm just going to bite milk length off because I don't think I'll be needing that one again. After the battle I had with that, definitely needs changing. It's not particularly a big fish, but it was fun. And I think like if we'd have never gone in the boat, we probably wouldn't have got it in, to be honest, because he sure did give us a run around. Yeah, this is a new calder carp cow. Every angler should have one. And you've got like the body one and one for the mouth and some cotton buds. Right, he's absolutely tiny really, but even so we always make sure that they're okay when we lift them out. Make sure their pecs are tucked in. Good way of doing that is just running your hand along the bottom. You can feel that everything's flat against the net. Yeah, he's alright. Probably a bit worn out now after all that. But little carp grow into big carp, so it doesn't matter how big they are, it's all in the fun of angling and catching them. That's what I'll say anyway. Right, just a dab of the mouth gear. That's it. Job done. little scrapper. Mind you, he did have the lily pads to his advantage. Alright, I'm going to slip him straight back, try and get him going again on the top. Okay. There you go. Best I get the rod back out, I think, try and catch a proper one. We just got another one. Weeded me straight away. Let's see if we can coax this one out. There's a weird sort of weed that's in this lake. Looks like underwater willow trees. I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to try and find out what this stuff is, but it's pretty severe for getting fish in. They're still taking them. It's pretty solid. I don't really want to give it too much. I'd rather give him a bit of slack and see if he just swims out of the weed himself. Because to be honest, like, I'm probably going to lose him if I start pulling. We've got another one on, it's weeded us again. A bit unfortunate really, but it's the nature of the lake, and this ain't common practice for me to go out on a boat because I don't generally do it. One thing, it's going to muck my swim up, and two, you're not allowed to do it on most waters. But for the sake of for the footage of this film that we're making, I'm going to have use of the boat, and normally I would just let the fish try and find its own way out of the weed and hope for the best, but we haven't got time for that. We want to try and catch a nice one out of here, so we're going to take the boat out once again. Should be a laugh.
It's back to the boat once again. Once again, changing the angle of pull over the fish has the desired result and gets the fish moving again.
Yes! Woo-wee. The extremely good Nash Wasteling, I might add. Okay, let's get the water in it. Right, them slings are quite heavy, so we zero it. Do. Zeroed. That was a battle from hell, mate. Right, let's disregard that. She's a beauty. It's 25. £25. A lovely chestnut colour. At last, we finally nailed one of the better ones. And what a battle it was, I'll tell you about it later. Absolute corker. Just a typical, one of the typical bigger fish in Brook Lake. We've yet to sort of come across these. They've been eluding us so far. But there you can see, there's the proof. She's obviously very anxious to get back. Oh. Very happy. Right, we finally got amongst one of the better fish in the end. It was a bit of a hard battle, to be honest. The fish weeded us up, as to be expected. The weeds are up, the pads are up. It is a jungle out there at the moment. It's not something I normally do, but on this occasion, like I said before, I took to the boat. I've used the boat before and it's been alright, and normally you get sort of stuck in the pads and you can land the fish. But I had a nightmare, to be honest. It was hard, and especially as I could see that I was playing a half-decent carp, and the fish kept going in this underwater forest and locking up in the weed, and because I was on my own, it was hard. When I got it to the surface, I was backing further into the weed and obviously drawing the fish further into the weed, and as you can see, on numerous occasions I had him on the top, near enough getting in the net, and it was very frustrating. At one time the net fell apart on me, and I thought, that's it, I've lost it now, I've lost my chance. but I kept my head. I tried to keep my head. I put the rod between my legs and fixed the net back up, and I kept saying to himself, calm down, everything will be all right. And it took me across a clear channel and into the next set of weed, and I thought I've definitely lost it this time. And I persevered and got stuck in there, and the end result, I landed it, and cracking fish. It's normally an upper 20, that one, sort of 27, 28, it's £25. I'm really pleased with that. That was a nice little touch there, and it was a hard battle, but eventually I won.
After finally nailing one off the surface, Jerry's back on the bottom baits overnight, and it's not long before he has a flyer to one of his rods.
Absolutely roared off that one. There we go. There's a little common. Leads come off. Handy. Lively little thing. I think I'll get him straight back. It's really lively. Alright. Just get that cast back out again.
Accurate recasting after dark is vital if you want to keep catching fish on sessions such as this, and with the aid of a clip, Jerry's back on the mark and into another fish before too long.
Working its way through the jungle of underwater weed. So it's locked me up in a in some weed. I feel it kicking. Let's just try to slowly coax it out of where it is.
But sadly, you can't win them all.
Oh, wherever it is, it's come off. Kind of locked me up on something. I don't know what happened there.